Ever look up at the stars at night when you were a kid and wonder at the mystery of the cosmos? Would you like to travel to the outer limbs of the Andromeda Galaxy and behold the diamond luminosity of a solar flare irradiating at 2,000 times the speed of sound on the event horizon of a supermassive black hole? Not us. No, we prefer crosswords. From Chaucer to Chastise, Shakespeare to Shake and Bake. Join Theo and Rob Cole as we take you on a tour of the marvels of the English language. To Across. It's like space travel for your mind.
Hello, Rob. Back in the home country.
The home county of Quebec, the home country of Canada, yeah.
Whatever it is, yeah. Welcome home.
Yeah, welcome home. And I was going to say good morning, and it's almost your morning, and it is my morning, because we are at that strange part of the year where we only have 4 hours separating us.
We are indeed. I think only 1 week is that the case. Is that right? Or a couple of weeks, possibly.
You changed this weekend?
I think we actually changed the weekend after, so I think we have a full fortnight on.
Full fortnight. I really like the 4 hours. It somehow makes the UK seem closer. So I do a lot of work with people in the UK, and I'm often on calls, and 4 hours is a manageable span to deal with, whereas 5 hours is somehow just that extra hour makes a huge difference.
It does. I think we talked about this actually in our very first episode, which was around the time of the clock change at the other end of the season. And it's just one of those slightly weird quirks that never fails to surprise me when we get to this time and suddenly I'm 4 hours. It's 4 hours difference, not 5. But it's nice, to be chronologically that little bit closer.
It is.
It makes me feel not quite so far away. How was your return journey from Italy?
Predictably harrowing. So it's me and 3 kids, 14 years and under. So we had a layover in Munich, which was already tight. It was about an hour and 20 minutes. And then our flight ended up sitting on the tarmac in Rome for about 40 minutes because of weather. And so we got into Munich and had to sprint through customs, get upstairs, and we managed to just make our flight, which was a miracle. And the kids, bless them, as one says, were amazing. Yeah. They just threw their bags on and sprinted along with me and kept up, and we managed to make the connections. That was great. Got back, and now, back home. I think in the end of the last podcast, I was reflecting on how much it would be great to be back home to the routine. And after one day of it, I feel completely different.
And you're ready to leave again.
I'm ready to do something. I hate it. I don't know. There's something about the grind of week in, week out that when you forget about it and you get back into it, it's like, oh God, this.
Yeah. It doesn't take long to resurface and want to dive to the depths once more. So I am obviously very much still in the grind too, but I have had a slightly interesting 24 hours in that I went to the Austrian embassy last night for the first time, my first time stepping foot in any embassy. So it felt very special. Images of Ferrero Rocher pyramids sprang to mind as I prepared to meet the ambassador. The reason I was there, and I took my daughter along too, was that we have received Austrian citizenship as part of a scheme that they opened about 4 or 5 years ago to effectively, I suppose, compensate for or attempt to apologize for the role that Austria played in the Holocaust, and so that any direct descendants of people who were persecuted or forced to flee during that period of Austria's history, which includes my great-grandmother, any of those descendants can now apply for Austrian citizenship. So my whole family have, and we've received it, and anyone who gets it is invited to a reception. And I have to say, it was very moving, and the ambassador gave a speech in which he acknowledged what he called the darkest period in Austria's history. We had a minute's silence for the victims, and I got to talk to a number of interesting people who shared their own family stories. And they were, well, you can imagine there was a vast array of different people and stories, but we all felt very, I think, united by this feeling that our ancestors had once, lived close to one another. They'd been compatriots. They'd perhaps, who knows, been friends, colleagues. Who knows how they may have interconnected.
Yeah.
But here we were somehow, well, yeah, acknowledging them, but also somehow reclaiming something that was forcibly taken from them. So it was a very interesting evening. And as I say, certainly a change to my usual routine, and sparked some interesting conversations with my daughter as well.
Nice.
So,
yeah, it's definitely, just thinking about it, I mean, the way you describe it, I mean, there was a whole world, a whole social world inside of Austria that was destroyed. I mean, obviously there's an ethnicity and there's a religious background, but just thinking it in the day-to-day, after you talking about your grandmother sitting on Freud's lap and so forth, I mean, there was a society of humans living in a space that was just entirely almost excised and taken away. And then those that were fortunate enough to get away reestablished themselves elsewhere. But that coming together and remembering the past must have been very moving.
it was very moving, yes. And it brought up a lot of conflicting emotions. I mean, we were talking about how our ancestors would feel about us reclaiming Austrian citizenship, because their relationship with Austria was inexorably coloured by what happened to them. And I spoke to one man who said that it had been a very difficult process for him in terms of proving his ancestry, because his grandparents had been sent to the camps and they had changed their identities when they were there for understandable reasons. And so he had found it very difficult to provide the evidence that was required by the Austrian authorities to show that he was their direct descendant. And it seemed to me a cruel irony that the people whose ancestors suffered the most, i.e. the ones who were sent to the camps and most likely perished, they are going to find this process the most difficult, not just emotionally, but also logistically. So that was an interesting conversation. But then I had a chat to another man who talked about his long-standing mission to try and track down his great-grandmother's grave in a Vienna cemetery. It's this enormous cemetery where the likes of Beethoven and Schubert are buried, but I think he said it was the biggest cemetery in Europe. Anyway, he spent about 10 years going through the records, tracing where she lived, and eventually he managed to find her tombstone in this cemetery, and it was in a very overgrown corner of the cemetery. It had been knocked over. He managed to find some sort of attendants at the graveyard to come and help him lift the gravestone up. It was very heavy, so they needed a digger to do that, but they finally did. And the text was all intact. It was in Hebrew, and it was riddled with bullet holes as well. So there was this idea that people had possibly been using it for target practice during the war. I mean, what an awful thought that is, But anyway, he had managed, this headstone is now standing proud in that cemetery. It's been cleaned just by exposure to the sun. He showed me a photo of what it looks like now, a year or so after he managed to find it. And there's that feeling of, just somehow, as I said earlier, regaining something that was forcibly taken away, regaining a feeling of place, but also in some way of a kind of continuity with Austria. But then, as I say, my grandmother's been dead for a number of years now, so I don't know what her response would be, and I don't want to second guess what it would be. So and I'm sure there's people that won't take up the offers of citizenship for those reasons. It's not a connection that they wish to re-establish. But anyway, the ambassador's words were, I felt, very moving and heartfelt, and I think it's important that they are doing this. And I know other countries are doing it too. Germany certainly has a similar scheme. Yeah, and also I have to say it's some silver lining of the Brexit process as well, that it focused our attention on the idea of regaining citizenship of the European Union, and probably focused our minds in a way that they wouldn't have been before, when Austrian citizenship would have felt like something symbolic, but not necessarily practically useful.
Right.
Whereas now it does have more of an implication, I suppose. So yeah, lots of big feelings.
What would your grandmother think, or will she think in the future, maybe if your daughter or son decides to take up an Erasmus scholarship or something and go and study in Vienna and work on German and potentially even at some level reintegrate into Austrian society, which is a door that's now open to them. So it's
Yeah,
back to my earlier comment about a society being almost removed or within the greater society. There's an opportunity to repeople it and
yeah,
reestablish it with the descendants, which is really cool. There's a novel in there somewhere, Theo.
there certainly is. Many novels. That's a really interesting idea, and a big part of why I did this. And I credit actually my older family members with kind of putting in the legwork to prove our connection to my great grandmother and to tell her story as well and show how she was persecuted and her plays were banned by the Nazis. But anyway, with the opportunity to do it, I thought, well, I have to, because I owe it not just to my grandmother, not just to myself, but particularly to the next generation who will now have opportunities to live and work on the continent that have been forcibly removed from them in recent years over here. So yeah, as I say, a huge mix of emotions, but ultimately I think something good to come out of something unimaginably dark. So that was my evening in a not particularly small nutshell. Shall we begin crosswording?
Absolutely.
Yeah, to get back to slightly more trivial matters. Now, I have a confession to make actually on the crossword front, which is this morning, absent-mindedly over breakfast, I started getting on with the latest Guardian quick crossword, as has now become my habit. And unfortunately, that means I have done today's crossword, which I have to say was really difficult. So can we go a day back?
We can't, because I did that one. So
oh no,
let's go way back in time, Theo. Let's go back to December at random. Let's take December 22nd. Or no, wait. Let's take December 22nd, because that's my wedding anniversary. How's that?
Lovely. A nice significant date to choose.
So that's number 16,733. And my wedding anniversary, incidentally, is the same wedding anniversary as my parents' wedding anniversary. It's an odd quirk.
That is an odd quirk. And not a particularly common time of year to get married.
No, ours was under certain circumstances because my father was at that point in his last few months of life dying of cancer, and we decided to move the wedding up so he could be there. And it just so happened completely randomly that was on the day of their wedding anniversary. And in the madness of planning that, and obviously what was happening with my father, I didn't even clue into the fact that it was the wedding anniversary, I think, until the day of. And my mom's like, oh, yeah, it's my wedding anniversary as well. Like, oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. Anyway, sorry. We're bringing the somber today at the beginning of our crosswording, but that's okay.
I'm not an especially spiritual man, but I would say that definitely feels fated.
Wow. Yeah, perhaps.
Okay, so we are on crossword number 16,733 of the Guardian Quick Crosswords. Do play along if you are so minded to do, or just listen to us stumbling through the darkness.
Groping
our way to some kind of linguistic catharsis, which inevitably never comes. I've started the timer. Let's dive in with one across, which is plant, disease, or dangerous place. 5-4.
Yeah, so I think we'll immediately move on from that unless your botanical knowledge is...
I mean, I'm thinking fungus or some kind of mildew. No, let's move on.
We need some letters.
We do.
Those looking for a gift is 6-6 with a question mark, 5 down. Oh, gosh. Maybe we should go to shorts.
Yeah. I was going to say some kind of something hunter, but it would need to be plural, and plural doesn't fit 6. So
no.
Okay, let's dart about until we... Okay, 10 across, sweet to semi-dry white wine.
This might be one of those days. We got to get something open, I feel. Like we need an easy one that can give us some letters to start our journey here, because...
Yeah, I mean, that could be like a Viognier would fit, or
Yeah.
Sauvignon.
Yeah, Viognier would fit, and it is tends to be semi to semi sweet or sweet to semi sweet.
Should we heavy pen?
We could pen. Well, look, that would put Theo. That would put V as the fourth letter of toast dish, which is 5 letters, 7 letters, and the V would sit as the fourth letter of the first word. Toast dish. Nope. I was thinking grilled cheese, but or croque monsieur, but no. Okay. Well, let's keep it in the back of our mind. Wow.
Yeah. Bending of the knee, 7 down, 12 letters.
Genuflect.
Oh, that's a good word.
It is a good word, isn't it? I don't think it's long enough though.
I don't think it is long enough. No.
Bending of the knee.
Prostration.
That could fit.
But isn't prostration more of a kind of...
Doesn't fit. It's 1 letter too short.
Yeah, right.
Dismiss it out of hand. Here, I think I have one we can get. 11 across. We got to get something. Garden grass is 4 letters. Here in America, we call that a lawn.
Oh yeah.
Would that be? I mean, I guess it could be turf as well, but
it could be turf. But in my head, turf is more the soil or the sod than the grass itself. So I think lawn is as good a guess as any, which gives those looking for a gift a 5th letter of N.
6 letters, 6 letters. First word would have 5th letter of N.
Mm.
Ooh. This is pretty bad.
This is pretty bad, Rob. Curse you for getting married on the 22nd of December.
I know. Well, I think we're with that old setter.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, I was going to suggest that we were risking straying into the Badlands. But
yeah, this is fiendish.
So this clue resonates with me particularly today, which is squinting 4-4, because I went for an eye test this morning. So I did a lot of squinting.
I mean, I was thinking the second word could be eyed, like EYED.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Oh, my God, Rob. This is absolutely appalling.
This is appalling. This is about as bad as it gets.
Even by our risible standards, this is bad. Volatile situation, 9 letters. Powder keg.
That's really good. Where would that sit, Theo? Which clue was that?
So 21 across.
Well, at this point, I think we just have to put stuff in and then...
Yeah.
Okay, well, wait a minute. I think there was one that I saw that I thought, ooh, I could do that. And then it's gone away.
That, incidentally, if it is powder keg, that would give our toast dish a last letter of P. So 5-7 with the last letter of P. Toast dish.
Here, an officer with the power to seize property. That's 19 across. It's 7 letters. Could that be a bailiff?
Yeah, it's got to be a bailiff. Which is BAILIFF, I think.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. And then, well, look, 18 down is space I space E, and that could be its magnitude. So one would imagine that would be size.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes, although my big issue is this discussion. Yeah, 6 letters, 3 letters, F space K.
Not many words end in F space K, do they?
I don't think I can think of any.
Maybe powder keg is wrong. I don't think bailiff is wrong.
No. Yeah, I think powder keg may be wrong. I like it. I want it to work. Discussion would then be 6 letters with the third last letter an F.
I was going to say like confer,
but it's discussion, not discuss.
I was going to say that's a verb, so that doesn't quite fit the clue.
I've got one here, Theo. 20 across is one we've had before, actually. It is an anagram of the letters of the word opted, O-P-T-E-D.
Oh, yeah.
And we've had this before in a crossword.
And I can't remember what it was now.
It is either depot or depot, depending on how one pronounces
yes.
it. Oh.
Yeah, that's going back to one of the early ones.
Wow.
I'm just jumping around.
Well, I don't think there's any other choice at this time.
This bending of the knee now has an
well,
I in
you got to
it
think it's
somewhere.
probably NG, right? Because it ends in I space space. Bending of the knee. Oh, it could be genuflecting.
Oh, I like that, Rob.
Yeah, because it's not bend the knee, it's bending of the knee. There you go.
Well done.
Okay, so we got a long one here, Theo, and it's going to give us some letters. I still have an odd form of faith in today.
Okay, I'm glad you do.
So a volatile situation is now space G space E and then 4 spaces. A volatile situation.
You sounded like you were gearing up for a guess. Is that
I
not
was
the case?
not. I was only thinking, I'm looking at our toast dish, which ends in B space space, 5 letters, 7 letters. For a second, I thought it could be BLE or something, because often when you have B as the third last letter, it's followed by an LE. But
I think of what kind of toast dishes.
Oh, I know what it is. I got it. It's a Welsh rarebit.
Of course it is. I was about to say there is no such thing as a toast dish apart from cheese on toast. And of course, there is another way of describing cheese on toast. That is really, really well done, Rob.
In Wales, they have their own way. And they don't call it rarebit. It's something with multiple L's in it that are pronounced in a completely tongue-twisting way.
Of course, but either way, that's blown the doors off this crossword. I think we can now hopefully start to get some momentum going.
So, Theo, I think that 18 down, magnitude is wrong because our volatile situation is T space G and then 6 spaces. And I think that could be a tightrope.
Oh, that's an interesting way of thinking that. Yeah, I suppose.
However, discussion would then be F space O, which I don't like. So maybe tightrope is wrong.
You could have flow, I suppose, on the end of a word.
FLO though.
I can't think what might come before there.
All right, take us somewhere here, Theo. We've got some.
What's that thing where you say? I was going to say it's conflab, isn't it? So that wouldn't work.
Oh, isn't it confab?
I think it's conflab.
Is it flab? Okay.
But that doesn't fit. Or is it confab? If it is confab, it could fit, but that would render tightrope wrong.
It would render tightrope wrong. Okay. Well, let's see if we can get something else.
What's this 16 across seaside sweet dash fish dash swing? 4 letters R blank C blank.
It's got to be rock, like rock candy.
Yeah. Well done.
I see how that relates to swing, and I see how that relates to seaside sweet, but I do not see, is there a rock fish? I know of a rock bass.
I know a restaurant called Rockfish in Dartmouth, Devon.
Oh, okay.
Which presumably could be named after an actual fish. Let's go with it. I mean...
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Quits, 8 across, 5 letters, E blank blank. Quits.
Yeah, I thought in terms of even, like we're quits, but
I'm thinking exits.
But then the I doesn't work because it's genuflecting.
And we can't. Genuflecting has to be right.
It has to be right.
If genuflecting's wrong, then I mean we're not getting anything today.
I think we're just gonna stop the recording immediately and walk away from this one.
Just have a moment of quiet reflection.
Yeah, I really like tightrope. I'm very angry about this.
No, I think it could still be good.
Yeah, maybe.
So, have you seen this 17 across? The clue is Romeo. 8 letters.
I did see
Now,
that.
could that be something like a romantic?
That could be a romantic. That fits.
Does that fit there? Or a... Let's go with romantic because it does fit, doesn't it?
All right. But then our discussion, well, again, confer would fit, but that's discuss. So confab would still fit then.
Yeah. But then tightrope doesn't. Should we clear tight? I don't think it is tightrope, is it?
I think we have to.
Okay, con fab.
I think we got to put that in, dude, because we got to put something in.
If it is confab, I've been saying it wrong all these years. Let's have a confab.
That does happen. It's the flab. It's just irresistible.
No wonder no one will employ me. Oh dear. Okay, what else have we got? We've got generally accepted, 12 down, which is 8 letters. Generally accepted. Assumed, but that doesn't fit with any of the letters we've got.
No, but it does seem nice.
Actually, doesn't fit the word, doesn't fit the letters, so forget that. Oh, just a time check in. We're at the halfway point, so we've got 15 minutes left.
15 minutes of agony left for both ourselves and anyone actually listening to this.
Okay, I think sweet to semi-dry white wine is Sauvignon. Because it has S.
It doesn't fit.
It's got to fit, Rob. It's got to.
It doesn't fit. It's Sauvignon. We're one letter short.
Oh, no.
And of course, with Sauvignon, you have the Cabernet Sauvignon and you have the Sauvignon Blanc, which you would be referring to.
Well, that's... What on earth could it be then if it's S blank
Oh,
U?
I've got it. Here's something. 13 across. Here's what we can get. It's R space L, 3 spaces. And the clue is wheel, paint spreader, or posh car. I never heard this used as for a posh car.
A roller.
I think it's a roller. Is that posh car called a roller? Like if you see some man in a Jag?
Well, no, it would be a Rolls, as in a Rolls Royce. But I suppose you could say, I mean, tenuously, that's another of those slightly P.G. Wodehouse-esque words that maybe back in the 20s or something they would say, gosh, look at his roller.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. Or a sort of Cockney kind of, which I'm not going to do on the podcast.
Lovely roller, mate.
Love your roller. That'll be Australian. That's a nice roller.
That was more Australian.
I think that's just what had to come out.
I liked it, Rob.
Roller.
I want to hear more from Australian Rob.
I don't think our Australian listeners do.
No. In fact, I think we've just lost any Australian listeners that we may have.
They're gone.
May have once enjoyed. Apologies.
Yeah, along with our Welsh listeners, we're hemorrhaging. We're hemorrhaging countries. All right.
This volatile situation is getting
volatile.
Getting volatile because
it's getting under my skin.
T-G.
Oh, I know.
Is a horrible start.
Oh, could be genuflection. Genuflection.
Yeah.
It is. I'm sure it is.
Okay. So T-N, which is better.
Yep.
Because I was going to say it could be tight spot.
It could be a tight spot too.
But that, I think, doesn't really fit the clue and also would probably be a dash. It would probably be too.
No, I don't think. I feel like genuflection's got to be.
I've got it, Rob. I've got it. It's a tinderbox.
Oh, yes. So just like your powder keg.
So it does fit. Yeah, I was just in the wrong kind of explosive chamber.
You were in the wrong sort of explosive chamber. But your analogy was in the right family of analogies.
Yes.
So that means size is correct. And that means that our generally accepted ends in X. So it's space, 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 A, space, D, space, X. Orthodox, which means romantic, is wrong.
romantic is definitely wrong because it was a complete guess. So let's go with orthodox. Yes.
But I think your confab is right, Theo. So
Yeah.
you can update your lexicon and remove conflab for yeah.
Conflab. Confab.
That's when two fat people
Oh,
sit down for a good
yeah.
chat.
I feel like every week I embarrass myself in some different way, and hopefully this week that is my moment. There
But
could be
that's the
more to
point,
come.
right? We're going to do this
Yeah,
podcast to expiate embarrassment.
yeah,
And after several hundred, if not thousands of episodes, you will have
yeah, yeah,
expiated all of your
yeah.
linguistic and other
Demons.
little demons. Yes, exactly.
It's intellectual warts and all, Rob, is how I like to look at it.
Warts and all.
Because doing these crosswords always anyway, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna
We got nothing but time here. We're not going to solve this thing.
No, we're not.
Ah.
We got 10 minutes, Rob. Let's not lose all faith. But
All
I was just going to say the crosswords for me will always be associated with sitting around my grandmother's kitchen table, doing the Guardian quick crossword, and me desperately wanting to get some clues and prove myself, and invariably failing. They've always been associated with feelings of sort of intellectual inferiority, but you know, it's kind of the point, as you say.
Feeling intellectually inferior is what impels you to become intellectually superior, Theo. Yeah.
And only the truly wise know that they are not. Or some.
That's right. Einstein had to sit in that patent office just filing patents until one day he'd had enough and had to
Indeed.
come up with a theory of relativity.
Yeah. Sitting on the toilet one day during a coffee break. Right. Quits could be...
I just thought evens.
Yes, call it quits. Call it evens. Really nice.
Yeah. So one down, which is squinting, is space S space. And I thought it could just be eyed, like EYED, but maybe I'm not right about that.
No. Although, I think this would be a very politically incorrect way to describe it. It could be boss-eyed.
What's that?
So boss-eyed is when you... Well, actually, I don't know. I mean, it's not a term I would ever use, really, but it's one of those phrases that people used to throw around quite often and say, oh, if someone couldn't see something properly, they said, oh, he's boss-eyed.
I must be boss-eyed. Remember, this is being set by
that.
P.G. Woodhouse. So
yeah, good. Peregrine. Is it Peregrine? Yes. I think it's Peregrine, isn't it? He's up there.
Yeah.
Chuckling at us. So, plant disease or dangerous place would now start with a B if it is boss-eyed.
Yeah. So let's think more along dangerous place than plant disease, because...
Yeah. No,
I can't. There's nothing's coming to me here. High flyer, 4 letters down with a question mark. That's 3 down. I would think it would be something more like a plane or a hawk or something that flies high, because it has the question mark implying
a kite,
cheekiness. Oh, a kite. Let's put a kite in, because at this point we really... So then it's B space K for the first word of the 5-4 plant disease. So it could be black.
Black spot. Black spot.
Black spot. Nice one, Theo. Okay, now...
You get it on roses.
Good work with a question mark starting in P. It's 12 letters long.
No. Oh no. These 12-letter words. Good work, question mark. I hate those question marks. It always implies that it's a very obtuse clue that is... It's like the setter's way of apologizing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, for their linguistic stretch. What about emergence is A space, and then 3 more spaces. So I should just say 6 letters starting in A for emergence.
Arrival.
I thought that too, but it's 1 letter too long.
Or just arrive.
But it's emergence.
Yeah.
Apparition, arrival.
Arrivé.
Wow. Do you think so?
I mean, no, but
What about 9 across? We haven't looked at this one. Hateful criticism. 7 letters. Third letter is a T.
so I should know this as a critic myself, but
As a hateful critic,
I'd never be hateful.
have any of your reviewees ever charged you with being hateful? I mean, you must come across the same people over and over again.
I always dread it actually when I meet somebody and they say, "Oh, I'm an actor," because you immediately think, "Oh no, have I given you a 1-star pasting at some point?" But those are very few and far between from me, so usually that's okay. But you normally get feedback on details actually, so factual details. People glory in pointing out where you've misquoted or said that there were 6 people in the band and there were actually 5 and that sort of thing. So
Right. I suppose turnabout is fair play, right? They feel that they now have all rights to criticize you.
yeah, something like that. This Romeo now has a second letter of O, a fourth letter of H.
And is 8 letters long. If only we could check just for fun. Let's just take one of the long ones and reveal it and give ourselves something.
Do you know, I think we might have to just to... Should we do those looking for a gift? Question mark.
Sure. Yeah. Talent scouts? Oh my God. Those looking for gifted people. Oh.
Yeah. I would never
Theo.
have that.
Theo.
I think that's unfair.
That's wow. Okay, well at least we revealed it. So anyway, this has been invalidated now. We
Yeah.
can.
Doesn't count. But still, we've got 3 minutes to try and...
So our Romeo is space O space H, 3 spaces and then an O. Lothario.
Lothario, yes. Well done. Well done. I think Casanova would have been a better clue there. Just a bit of feedback to the setter.
Yeah. We have to accept Lothario into our hearts, though. Good work. It's very long. It starts with P. Its second last letter is P. It's 12 letters long. It has an A and an R somewhere in the middle hanging out. Good work with a question mark. Good work? Or your hateful criticism, Theo, now ends in an L. Space T, 3 spaces L. Hateful criticism.
Still drawing a blank there, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Ah, dear me.
Yeah, it's been one of those today. It's been one of those, folks.
Even with cheating, we can't crack it today. Our sweet to semi-dry white wine, we now have an S blank U blank E. Shh.
My sister, whose career is in wine.
Oh, she's...
If she is listening, it's S space U space E space space space.
Shall we reveal it?
Let's reveal it. Why not?
Oh, Sauterne.
Oh, Sauterne, of course. That's ridiculous. That's really bad. And it's generally just sweet. A Sauterne is a botrytized white dessert wine. And I believe, is it made from Sauvignon? No. Anyway.
It sounds like it should be related. I've been to Bordeaux a couple of times, but Sauterne is not one of the Bordeaux wines, so that's my excuse.
Yeah, that's really pathetic. I should have had that. I'm launching hateful criticism at myself inside of my head.
Don't do that, Rob.
It's happening. Okay, so reveal 4 down now, Theo.
Yeah.
Is philanthropy. I knew it was something like that. We've actually kind of shat the bed a bit today. We haven't been sharp. We should have gotten philanthropy. Gratis is free. 14 across is gratis because it's space R space T space S. Hateful criticism.
Now, hang on. Don't get this just yet.
Vitriol.
Oh, yeah. Well done. Did you get that yourself?
Yeah. Well, because we're out. Yeah. We had space T space I space L. I mean, at some point it becomes pretty obvious when you have enough letters.
That was the timer, by the way. So
I heard it. So the last one that I have on mine is emergence, which is A space V space N space emergence. Advent.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for the record, we didn't get Talent Scouts, Philanthropy, and Sauterne, but we got everything else once we had the letters those gave us, so that's not.
Or philanthropy. Sorry to.
Yeah, yeah, no, I said Philanthropy. Talent Scouts,
Oh,
Philanthropy, and
did you get that? You didn't. You didn't reveal it.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I revealed that one, Theo. I
Yeah.
cheated. Yes. All right, well, there you go. There you go.
A failure on multiple fronts. Even with 4 cheats, we were unable to crack crossword number 16,733.
Well, no, with four cheats, we did crack it, but I think we only had 3 cheats. I only think we cheated on Talent Scouts, Philanthropy, and Sauterne.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. I think you.
Yeah, I think you misunderestimated, but that's okay.
I did misunderestimate. Who said that again? What was that?
George Bush.
That was a Bushism. I lose track of what's a Bushism, and what, but of course he now looks like an intellectual giant next to what's followed in his Republican footsteps.
Well, he looks folksy. He looks like a kindly character that, and I think maybe it's the reclamation job that started with the Oliver Stone documentary, or not documentary, I guess movie, which made him seem just sort of lovable, if slightly stupid.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, nothing particularly lovable about the Orange Goblin.
No. I read somewhere, and it may be untrue, but I remembered it because it surprised me so much that George W. Bush was actually the best read of recent presidents. That
No.
he was, apparently had a real reading habit with a fondness particularly for political biography, and he'd read something.
Wow.
He'd read something like 6 biographies of Lincoln or something like that, which again, I mean, this could just be complete conjecture from someone without the information to back up the claim, but it sort of sounds vaguely plausible, and actually shows that the amount one sort of consumes in the form of information doesn't necessarily equate to one's ability to speak with eloquence, shall we say. And so I think he was possibly an example of one whose utterings betrayed his intellectual capacity, or rather underplayed his intellectual capacity, as opposed to the other way around. Whereas I think with Trump, it's those two things are slightly more in balance. I think the mouth and the brain are at about the same level. But who knows, maybe in 20 years' time, we'll be saying, oh, for the wisdom of Trump, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Trump is not, technically speaking, stupid. I was looking at that Truth Social quote that was read out during the Oscars. So, and I want to come back to that in a second. But the post that Trump had made that Jimmy Kimmel then quoted on stage and rebutted with a quick zinger, it was actually fairly cogent.
So Trump criticized the hosting of Jimmy Kimmel, essentially, and Kimmel retorted with, "Isn't it past your jail time?" Which is a good line. It's a good line.
It's a good line. It's a good line. It was well delivered. I'd read that in print, and so I saw the actual Trump Truth Social post, and it was surprisingly cogent. I mean, there was good punctuation. Everything was spelt properly. It was, well, the thing is, and that's where I think the sort of liberal media does a disservice, because it does paint Trump as a complete oaf. But of course he's not. He's not an intellectual. He is not a man he's not a considered man, I think is maybe one way of putting it. But he's not stupid. He's, as everyone knows, I don't think we need to get into the litany of his psychological issues, but he's not stupid. And that's one thing. I think it's just so easy to be like, oh, he's just a dumb orange guy. But I think one does that to one's peril, because he has some kind of conniving intelligence that is very successful in what he's trying to do, which is lead the United States of America. And underplaying that is foolish, in my opinion.
Yeah. I certainly think he has a showman's instinct for the crowd, which is quite rare in politics today, I would say. And that requires intelligence requires emotional intelligence and actually a performer's intelligence. I think he has a sort of, as I say, a showman or an actor's instinct, but he's not an inherently political animal. I say that probably perhaps hubristically because he may well be about to put into place, one of the most sort of autocratic regimes America has ever seen. However, I think that comes more from a place of showman's ego than it does from a place of political ideology. So he's certainly an interesting figure, for better or worse. And yeah, I do agree that it's folly to write him off as a fool because he's not, and one should never underestimate these people. So
one should never underestimate one's foe, and there is a bit of that, I think, in progressive politics. Yes, one should never misunderestimate one's foe, and I think there's too much of that actually in progressive politics, as it were, just to debase and say, "Oh, these fools, these morons! Look what they're doing again," which I think is an inability to step off one's pedestal and really take a good hard look at what's actually happening. But I wanted to get back to the Oscars because I watched your film that you recommended last week. I watched Past Lives. It just so happened when I was on Lufthansa flight 474 or whatever it was, that it was one of the films on offer. And I said, well, there's serendipity for you. And so I watched it, and I very much agree with you. It was a very moving motion picture. Not a lot happens. It was very well acted. A lot happens just in watching the characters. And I found myself, because I was in the plane and I could do so, sometimes rewinding a scene and watching it twice. And I'd watch one of them and then I'd watch the other one just to see the different reactions. And a lot of it is in the interplay of these two childhood best friends. And I don't want to obviously give too many spoilers, but I thought it was very moving.
So the director of it is also a playwright, and I think that really shows in the film because she has a wonderful mastery of stillness and silence, and how to choreograph a meaningful stillness. And
yes,
there are several points in the film where the two main characters just look at each other for what feels like a pretty significant amount of time, including towards the very end of the film. And those moments are just absolutely loaded with meaning. What one could say they're Pinteresque in the way that the pause is used so effectively. And I think one of the reasons I liked it so much is because it showed for me the way that really good filmmaking is often rooted in really good theatre making. And those two art forms have been linked since the very beginning and still are, which is one of the great arguments for investment in the arts, in theatre particularly, that there's such a crossover between the mediums. But that film for me showed it more clearly than many others do. Another example, incidentally, is Joe Wright, the director Joe Wright, who his parents run a theatre in London called the Little Angel Theatre, and they set this theatre up, and it's dedicated to children's theatre. It's dedicated to puppetry in particular, and nice. You can just imagine growing up in that environment with those skills of storytelling, those very fundamental skills just being embedded in you from a very young age. Of course, he went on to become a Hollywood film director because those are the key skills you need. And I hope it will ever be thus, but I think we're at an interesting point where questions are being asked about, what cinema is now and what the future of filmmaking is. So anyway, I'm glad you saw it, in summary.
I think coming from what you said, seeing more theater directors doing work on screen, I think there's going to be a space for that, because I was saying to the kids the other day, it's just, I'm sick and tired of green screen movies where humans are placed in a nothing environment, in a dead environment, and expected to produce something, and just being told, well, don't worry, it's all going to be happening around you and the technical wizardry will take care of that. Yeah. And it just creates a spectacle to me that seems empty. and deeply uninteresting despite the number of explosions and amazing backgrounds that they might produce. I think I've completely fatigued of it, and I have zero interest. I haven't watched a Marvel movie, a superhero movie, or any blockbuster for that matter, not even Oppenheimer, to be honest, because I'm really tired of that type of theater or cinema. I don't want to watch it anymore. I have no interest in it. We're seeing that Celine Song film was just a sort of breath of fresh air because it was very human. And I think that's what appealed to me.
I think you're right. And I think as the world gets ever more technological, the thirst for very human stories will only grow. I hope so anyway, because I think that's when filmmakers, playwrights, storytellers of any kind, that's when they're really at their best. For me, is when they're really zeroing in on that, and ultimately that's what makes the difference between a good Marvel film and not. It's not the effect. It's not the big battle scenes. It's the character arc and the way that it's your investment in the outcome of that CGI explosion. It's not the CGI explosion itself. So anyway, this is very interesting. I'm actually currently reading a book that pertains to this very subject, which is just called Watching, by a guy called Tom Sutcliffe, who's a kind of cultural commentator, and it's really thought-provoking and covers a lot of this ground. So do track it down if you can. Maybe that could be my recommendation for the week. I'm not sure it's actually in print anymore, but if you can get hold of it, do. Any recommendations for you, Rob, before we sign off?
Ooh, adding to my last week's love fest for the works of Elena Ferrante, I went on a little binge while I was at the end of my time in Naples and read one of her first novels. And then The Story of the Lost Child, I think that's what it's called. I get that confused with the third or fourth one from her Naples tetralogy. But then I'm also reading a book of essays of hers. And I found in the last 10 years or so, I'm really into essay writing, especially by writers and writing about craft and stuff. I found that really interesting. And it's called Frantumaglia, Frantumaglia. And it is just a series of different letters she wrote to her publishers. Obviously, as people may or may not know, Elena Ferrante is not a person, it's a pseudonym. And technically no one knows who she is, although apparently she may or may not have been outed. That I don't have a particular interest in. I'm just interested in her reflections on craft and how she writes and why she writes and what she's doing and so forth. And so I'm reading that right now. I guess a bit similar between your book, kind of a peek behind view and how someone might be approaching craft. So I found that, really interesting. I'm a bit partway through that, but I find myself furiously highlighting sections, really cogent summaries of some things that have been rattling around in my own head. And I think that's the sign of a great writer, when they can put something into succinct terms that's been bouncing about your head, but without maybe a good, strong formulation. And she definitely has that skill. So if anyone's interested in the works of Elena Ferrante or writer's craft in general, I think Frantumaglia would be a good read.
Good recommendation. Thanks, Rob. We haven't been the most succinct ourselves today, but it's been fun. And
it's been fun. So I guess we'll sign off like that.
Yeah, we should. Say farewell.
Very well. Well, see you later, Theo. We'll catch up next week for another one, hopefully a much more successful one than this one's, but it was fun.
It was fun indeed. And I won't say happy anniversary because it's nearly 3 months now since then. But nice that we got to mention it nevertheless. All the best, Rob. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Two Across, a podcast produced by Theo Bosanquet and Rob Cole, theme music by Enthusiasts. If you like what you're hearing, we would love you to give us a quick shout out, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. We're slowly trying to build this thing. If you think of anyone that might be interested, do share it, do send it on, and keep listening.